WesWes Show.
Alright, welcome back to another episode of the 135 Footy Show, part of the WesWes Network. Welcome to our guest, Stacey from the Tana. How's it going, Wolves?
Hey brother, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good, bro. Short panel tonight, just the two of us, so we'll be holding down the fort. Talking all things footy. We'll do a wrap of last week's games, cover off some of the origin, what's good, what's not. And then we'll look ahead to next week. But yeah, before we kick in, any shout outs, Stacey? Anything you want to say?
No, just a bit weird, and it's normally quite packed. The podcast is just us two Warriors fans on after probably our worst performance of the year. It's quite interesting. And I've copped a lot of grief in the past for not showing up after New South Wales have lost or the Warriors have played poorly. So I thought I would buck that trend and come on today. And I was expecting to get a bit of grief, but the rest of the boys didn't make it, so I feel pretty good jumping on at the stage. So not much shout out to anything, but yeah, just wanted to say that. What about you? You got anything?
No, I just wanted to probably just plug the girls, our girls on the WesWes Network. Go check them out. I listened to their last one. They had Letty from back on the 135 on.
Yep.
So yeah, it's big good to just come hear the girls back on their pod. So yeah, go check us out. The other podcasts as well, WesWesNet.com. Or you can find all our channels there. Cool, but we'll get straight into it. Let's do a wrap of last week's games. I thought we'll jump in reverse order because that's how my memory works. And so we'll go with that first one. An awesome win for Manly. They needed it. I think most of us tipped the Roosters actually last week, other than Tama. He actually picked Manly. Did you catch that game, right?
Yeah, it was a good game. Quite a close game too. Good for the Seagulls. I think we said last week whoever lost, we're going to put a line through them. So I guess a lot of people putting a line through the Roosters at this point after last week's game. But yeah, I think I was talking to Cameron, our editor, just before jumping on about the game, and he mentioned how important Cherry Evans was, and that was a masterclass from him. He was the difference. And the Roosters, I'm not sure what's going on for them. We keep talking about how on paper how much of a gun team they've got, but their attack is it's really, really clunky, eh? And I brought this up last week as well. They couldn't they still haven't figured out what they want to do with Joey Manu. So he's their best attacking guy and he's their main threat. So they got to figure out a way to get him more ball, and I think that's where they tried to move him into 5'8" earlier, just in the season, trying to think that might ignite something for him. He's not a 5'8". He's probably a fullback. So they've got two elite fullbacks, and they need to find a way of getting that to work. And that's probably been some of the issues that we're seeing for the Roosters. But I believe they're getting Brandon Smith back pretty soon, and potentially Sam Walker as well. But I think it's probably too late for them. So I'm going to put a line through them. But I just want to say Cherry Evans, he was a bit of a beast in that game, carrying on his origin form. So what did you make of it?
Yeah, I think Cherry Evans was big in that. You get the point you make about Manu, like even the commentators throughout the game, they're just aware of, the Roosters really trying to go there, and you see that they're not building to it, that's just trying to find Manu in spaces and try and, like you're saying, just get his hands on the ball. But I think because there's so much focus, he's still a freak. I mean, how he scored that try, he's still very freakish. But yeah, like you're saying, just the structure, like how they're going about their plays. Trying to find ways of getting more touches. See how they there was at one point where they had him kick receiving like a winger. They must have got one of the wingers to push up so he could, do the receiving and trying to get some ball runs. But I think most people that the standard of game too, without looking at the ladder, that looked like a Sea Eagles Roosters game. Like you look and kind of we're looking at two quite top teams. But yeah, just Roosters. Yeah, with that roster, really struggling to see what's happening there. The only people who haven't written them off is the TAB. Still got them as $81 favourites to take it out, ahead of Manly at 151. So, Yeah,
I
so
might,
I've
I
still
might
a
chuck it.
lot of faith in the TAB.
Yeah, I might chuck it a lazy $10 on that because on paper
Yeah,
they've got a championship winning roster. If they can
yeah,
figure
yeah.
out
If they
the
can get into
issues,
that eight, yeah.
um, you never know. And if this season, like part of the season, like we'll probably talk about the Warriors later on. And
Hmm.
if the Warriors had won, they'd be fourth. But they
Yeah,
lost, and now they're just holding on to eighth. So it's that close. And we've talked
yeah,
about that throughout the podcast all year, how the closeness of the competition. So if the Roosters could go on a run similar to what the Cowboys are doing a little bit now, it's not impossible. So I know we put a
yeah.
line through them, and I'll put a line through them just because their form's been poor. But a lot of people don't want to write them off because on paper that's a gun roster. So
Hmm.
they just need to, maybe if they can just jag a win, that might kickstart something. So yeah, cheeky 10. I might chuck a cheeky 10 on them.
Yeah, well,
No,
you're
here in the
right. Like
households.
the roster, like you can see why the TAB still has them or thereabouts because
Yeah,
it's yeah, like Trent Robinson's still there. It's pretty much a really good squad. So whatever's happening, if they can get it to click in these last 5 6 weeks, yeah, they could go on a run and be real contenders. So watch the space on the Roosters, possibly.
yeah.
All right, let's go. Yeah, this was a hard watch for also. The beginner of this podcast is his doggies, mate.
Oh, mate.
Where do you start with that game? Knights were good. Bradman Best had probably one of his best games. Forced his way into Origin after that performance. Against a woeful doggies team. Bro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Felt for the all size. And just like you said, this is his podcast. He's a diehard Bulldogs fan, so no, he wouldn't have been watching down from heaven, watching that performance. He would have been pretty disgusted. So, I looked, like you said, Bradman Best, he was outstanding. But if you look at how the Dogs were set up, they had that young rookie, 5'8", Khaled
Yes,
Rajab, I think his name
Rajab.
was.
Yeah,
He was on debut, and he was at 5'8". Then next to him, they had Jaden Ockenball, and he's a winger, and he was playing back row for some reason. I'm not sure why. And then they had that youngster, Paul Alamotti, who's like 19, 20.
yeah,
Those three defending next to each other, and that was the right edge. And then
yeah.
they had Kalen Ponga, who was sweeping on that side
Just love
for
that
the
side. Yeah.
left, and then Bradman Best, who was the left centre, and he was playing coming up against those guys. So he got really good quality ball. He looked like Matt Gidley out there in the centres for Newcastle, like a bit of a throwback there.
Mm-hmm.
And basically on the back of that game, he played his way into Origin. Unfortunately for him, he's not going to be coming up against Rajab and Ockenbaugh and these guys against
Exactly.
Queensland. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, we'll talk about Origin a bit later, but I thought that Newcastle, they had a really good plan. That they were specifically targeted that side. So you look, they got 66 points, and you think they've got someone like Dominic Young, who's on the right wing, and he's a noted
Mm.
try scorer, and he didn't get a try. So basically, they put all their attack down that
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
side,
One way.
and yeah, Bradman Best was the main beneficiary of that, and he played his way into Origin on the back of carving up these sort of young guys and guys playing out of position on that side. So I think the coaching staff and whoever they can't keep those guys around each other. They need to split them up and find a way of improving the defense. So yeah, it was a tough watch. I didn't watch the whole game for that reason. It was a bit of
Mm.
sort of like a throwback to what Super Rugby's been like this year. Some of the games have been over by half time, and then you're sort of
Yeah.
losing interest, and that was sort of what this one was. But yeah,
Mm.
I just really liked how the Knights. I'll give them
Had a
some credit
plan.
because they
Yeah.
targeted that side, that weak side of the Dogs' defense there.
Kellen Ponga. Like I guess we'll touch on Origin later, but man, off the back of that performance, to still say no, you happy with that call from him? Sticking to his guns to back the Knights this year and just do his work there.
Yeah, I was 50-50 on that one, eh? Like I heard there's this article on the Daily Telegraph. You've got to subscribe to it to see it, where
Yeah.
they list the top 100 or something paid players, and Kalen Pong is the highest paid player in the game.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, so the Knights are paying this guy a small fortune. I think he's on 1.4 million according to the reports.
Yeah.
And if the Knights are paying him that money, they want to see some return. So from that perspective, it's good that he's turning up for the Knights. But I
Mm.
would have liked to have seen him in Origin because everyone's talking up Reece Walsh and how he's this and that, how great he is. But you forget how good Pong has been in Origin. So I would have liked for him
Yeah.
to go and sort of like just to remind everyone. Sort of like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
makes you think of like the Last Dance, how everyone was talking up LeBron James, and everyone forgets how
LeBron
good
coming,
what Michael
Jordan.
Jordan was. And then you watch
Yeah,
that documentary, you're like, holy shit, yeah, he was great. So I'd like Ponga to come on and just to remind everyone, man, you must have forgotten, but I'm flipping awesome in Origin. And watch me carve. I don't know, actually, I'm glad now he's out. I don't want to see him carving himself else up. But yeah, I would have just liked to him to say, hey, look, everyone's Reece Walsh's might
yeah,
be flavour of the month. But don't forget, mate, I'm bloody good. So don't write me off yet. Don't say Walsh is
yeah,
the guy. I could be the guy again. And I've been the guy for a
yeah,
couple of years, yeah.
yeah. Good point. I kind of I agree as well, but I think at the same time, I'm glad he's kind of a guy of his word. Not
Mm.
just flip flopping and going, oh, well, actually, I'll come back now. He made his call early, and I'm glad he's kind of stuck to it and just backing his performances at the night. So
Yeah.
good on him.
Yeah, we talked about
Uh,
Origin. We'll talk about Origin a bit later, but Queensland, they've been quite. Their selections make a lot of sense. So they had AJ Brimson as 18th man. They lose the fullback. He's the guy who comes in. Whereas our one's been a bit. This guy's come out
it's
of nowhere. At least Queensland have got logic, and this guy was 18th man, so he comes in. With this guy's
element
injured
of
season.
surprise.
Yeah,
But,
we like a bit of a element of surprise in our selections, which we'll touch on a bit later.
ooh, the Broncos Dolphins, a lot closer. The Dolphins kind of gave them a run for their money.
Hmm.
Your thoughts on that? This game, quite close.
Yeah. I thought that was a good game actually. The Dolphins, I
Hmm.
felt for them because probably I watched that one maybe 10 minutes ago. I think that they were probably thinking that they were going to win it. Just some.
I was hoping they.
I was too. I was too. Just some class moments from young Selwyn there. So he's the
Yeah,
guy who shucks. I'm sort of glad he's not in Origin when we just talked about Kalen
yeah,
Ponga, but he's
yeah,
the guy who's played, been awesome. But that was interesting. Nikorima, he moved to fullback, and the Hammer played centre.
yeah,
So yeah, we spoke on last week's podcast. I think when the Dolphins played the Eels, we talked about it. Hopgood, he set up a try and he
yeah.
scored a try, and he specifically targeted Nikorima on defence. So I think that was part of the reason they tried to hide Nikorima, I guess, and by playing him at fullback, hide him a bit on defence, but he keep that spark that he offers an attack. The flip side of that argument is, the Hammer gets stuck on an edge. So we talked about the Roosters, what's happened to Joey Manu. It was sort of similar
Mm-hmm.
with, the Hammer. He's just stuck on that side, and he, like Joey Manu at the Roosters, he's their most dangerous player on attack. So they needed to get him more ball with the game on the line in that last sort of 10 minutes. So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. But just congratulations to the Broncos. They needed to win because if they had lost back-to-back games heading into the bye this week, that would really shake their confidence. People will be talking a bit more louder about their
Yeah, last
season
year's slide and
collapse
yeah.
last year. So I think that win just sort of stops that that narrative a bit. So from
Mm-mm.
that perspective, good on the Bronx. Yeah. Well, what did you make of that one?
Yeah, like again, you're right. Like just before that bye, they really needed to kind of take that win coming off a loss against the Titans. Um, Dolphins, yeah, I guess they're pretty. Again, the table's so close, but they've had a bad run lately now. Ever since that loss to the Warriors, they've been struggling. So um, I think they needed to kind of show something. Yeah, hats off to the Broncos. Again, I still think they haven't convinced people yet. I think the jury's still out on if the Broncos are really the real deal.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe just a couple of tough games. Missing Reece Walsh for the next 3 weeks. Oh yeah, three NRL games, and then he'll also miss Origin. Um, but then yeah, I guess Tristan Sailor he kind of aimed up. So good two performances from the kid. From the first game when Walsh was out, and then this one backing up. So a couple of good games from him to kind of make his mark in the NRL as well.
Yeah, I'm just
Uh,
looking at their draw as well. So they've got what's this? One, two, three, four of their last 6 or 7 games they've got against top 8 sides, and then they've got instead of a Queensland derby against the Cowboys who were flying. So they've got a tough end to the season. I think they've only got 2 games against sides that are outside the top 8 and that local derby. So that win, they needed that win, like you say, just to help themselves up because they've got a really tough end into the season. So, things could get a bit dicey if they had lost that one and then got a tough end of the draw. So I know Simon, who's a regular on the podcast, he'll be happy. So I'm glad he's not here to gloat about that one. But, good one for the Bronx. And, just that moment of that touch of class from Cobbo was the difference, that the Dolphins didn't quite have.
Yeah, and it's good to see players like that stepping up and being able to kind of have those big plays for the team. And I think that's what the Broncos like. You look back to 2021. I think one of the earlier podcasts you guys did with Vice, kind of wrapping up the season for 2021. There was Payne Haas was the only no Queenslanders on that Broncos side. I remember you mentioning it. That's the first time in a long time that there was no Broncos at all for Queensland. And now just to see the revival and so many of those players. Standing up as their own player too, like it's not just as kind of team players. They're players that actually make a huge difference by themselves, like real key players. Kerrigan, you got Flegler in there now, starting to make a name for himself, and then Walsh and Selwyn. So kind of those big moments, like you're saying, being able to have guys who can just carry the team and kind of make a difference.
Yep.
So. Another hard watch. The Cowboys payback on the Tigers. That was a thumping and a real disappointment. Like 74-0. Yeah. Again, I didn't watch the whole of that game. It just got hard watching for the second half after that many tries in the first. I don't know. Your takeaways to get for the Tigers on that. With
that
no
was
uppy, what happens to these guys?
Yeah. The defense. Wow. Well, if you're conceding 74 points, the defense is obviously poor. But like you say, they've got no uppy and they've got no Luke Brooks, and that's sort of their main source of points is those 2 guys. So I think the attack was always going to be a struggle. But just getting the calculator out. They lost, the Cowboys lost by 48 points, and now they won by 74, so that's a 122-point turnaround. So I don't know what the record is in the NRL, but that's got to be up there, 122 point
Flip it on its head
swing like that. But it's good for the Cowboys in a lot of ways because the issue that I thought that they might have on the table where it's quite congested is their points differential was poor. They were on negative 40 or something like that. Now they're on about 30, a positive 30 after that 74-point turnaround. And that could be crucial when it comes to the final standings because I think it will be. There's going to be a lot of teams that finish on equal points and for and against is the next deciding factor after that. So that keeps the Cowboys in the hunt. And I think, they're really, really coming on strong. So it was unfortunate. It was one of those games where we'll touch on some of the other games, but I thought that at least, there's a couple of other blowouts, but it was from the first 5-10 minutes. They were already 10-0 down after, 10 minutes, so they were going point a minute already. So it seemed they just didn't show up at all. And, the Tigers, there's something rotten going on there because they've one poor season. They've been poor for 10 years. I think they haven't made the playoffs since 2011, which is the longest drought. So I know a lot of I just heard a lot of commentary around Benji Marshall and Tim Sheens and the coaching staff.
Yeah.
What are they doing? But this is their first year. What happened the other sort of 11 years of them being Gaia? So I don't know. I'm looking a bit higher up to the brass. Maybe the CEO's been there. I think since 2015, and some of those board members should be on the chopping block because there's that old adage that it's fish rots on the head down. So the Tigers have got massive issues, and they've had issues for years. So there's no easy answer for them. There's no easy answer.
Well, and you look at their roster, like Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard roster to look at. Like, I mean, you got real handy players there. You got Bateman in there. You got Papali'i, Clemmer,
What?
Tamanu. So yeah, but
Mm.
it's
Like
again,
if you
it's
look at the start of the season, they signed, like you said,
yeah.
Papali'i, Bateman, Coruscant. These are elite guys. You think, well, maybe that might be a turnaround, but that in terms of who got who, they'd be up
Mm.
there as some of the better signings for a club, but they haven't turned it around. And like you say, you add Utuika Manu onto the list. They've got a decent pack at least. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, well, yeah. I guess there's no, not much breakdown, but kind of you look at the Dolphins when they're building, trying to find a marquee player, and now you've got guys, in there who kind of stood up and just made a name for themselves. Felice has kind of had a revival. The Hammer's been like one of the best signings,
Mate, he's been
and
awesome.
yeah, and so it's like you look at this list and you feel like this is the expansion team. Because it's like, yeah, it's pretty rough kind of yeah, bunch of guys they pulled together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of just wonder what they need to do next year to kind of shake it up. So, yeah, yeah, I think them and the dogs have got a lot of work to do. Both on new coaches, kind of the scope of Sheens and Benji, and same with Corrado, and just hasn't kind of fired. Again, like you were saying with the start, like all these blowout games, like going watching them back again, like you're saying, like that opening 10, most of the teams they do hang in there. So both the games kind of start out and you think they're pretty even. Yeah, and it's almost like a fitness thing or something kind of in that after that wrestle of the first 10, both teams feeling each other out.
Yeah.
And then all these kind of, yeah, just record scoring games just kind of blow out. Um, yeah, I don't know what the answer is for these teams.
Well, I wonder if it's something sort of like team culture or just pride in your performance or something like that. Because you talked about the Bulldogs, right? And now they got Cameron Ciraldo. He was the
Mm.
defence coach at Penrith. And Penrith won 2 titles with the best defence in the whole comp. And they've got the best defence again. So
Yeah,
that's why he was the most sought after coach. And the Bulldogs and Tigers and all these other clubs were chasing him because they know,
mm.
that if you've got flash attack and all the rest of it, that wins you lots of fans and lots of admiration. But defense wins you championships, and that's why
Yeah,
everyone wanted Cerrado. So for him to be the coach of a team that got pumped 66
yeah,
nil, given who he is as a defensive guru,
yeah,
there's more going on at the Bulldogs than just what
mm.
he's bringing as coaching. Because no way he's just forgotten how to coach defense. It's not
Yeah.
possible.
Well, yeah, definitely, exactly. All right. Yeah, let's move on from that. Um, yeah, from the time. Um, Raiders Titans. Raiders. Man, I feel like the Titans are unfortunate in this one. This was a good game. This is ended up being one of the better games of the weekend. I enjoyed it.
Yep.
Um, yeah, like it was a good one for the Raiders though as well. But yeah, like your thoughts on that game in terms of the Titans performance.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought but some rough calls from the ref. I think Fafita got a disallowed try, which I thought that was a bit contentious there, and a couple of refereeing decisions went the wrong way, and that in a close game like this, that could be quite costly. I think there was sort of almost a 12-point turnaround where Timoko got a try after they were trying to,
Uh,
the Titans hot on attack, and then I think Sebastian Chris caught the ball and just shoveled it off, and then he runs 100 meters and scores. So it's those little crucial moments that have been the difference because the Titans, they've been good. They've been in every single game,
yeah,
well, pretty much, except for a couple here and there. But yeah, another good win from the Raiders. They've won 9 of their last 11 games now, and no one's really talking them up at all as a sort of a potential winner. But their record recent, they've probably been arguably the form team. So
mm,
you're not getting a lot of love from the pundits and the media and all those. Everyone's talking about Souths and the Roosters.
yeah,
Not the
yeah,
Souths, sorry, the Panthers and Storm and that. But this is a team that's really sort of sneaking under the radar a little bit. But yeah, I think they could be a potential smoky. Like 9 of the last 11 games won. That's nothing to be sneezed at. So a
Yeah,
good
and I
one from
think
them.
they were the same last year as well. You know, they were kind of like a bit of a dark horse, coming in quite under the radar, but kind of slipping into that eight. So they're well and truly in that eight, and like they're saying, like not much love for the Raiders, but they're doing awesome stuff on the field.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, I was going to talk about Rapana's little he. I just don't like it. Like he's one of the ones that seems to always milk that penalty. Like a
Which one was
little
that one?
Rapana.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Anytime he kind of gets a little injury or a little knock, he's always milking it and he'll always kind of stay down till he
Mm.
pulls that penalty. Yeah, he's kind of a major suspect for that.
Yeah. We talked about this before, I think, earlier on the podcast, where like the referee, he sort of almost doesn't blow his whistle unless if you get up straight away, even if it was a sort of a foul. And that's
Mm,
sort of where the milking comes into it. You're right, I'm with you. He does milk it a bit too much, but that's sort of how the game's going. If you don't milk it, you don't get the calls, and that's what I
yeah,
don't like from a refereeing perspective.
yeah.
If someone gets hit high, whatever, just penalise it, like they do in rugby union. Doesn't
Mm,
matter if that guy gets up straight away. If you hit him in the
yeah,
head, well, it's
yeah.
too bad. It's a penalty, regardless of how
Because there's
injured the
one
player
of
is or not.
the
Yeah.
there's one of the ones where the ref, if the bunker doesn't call it straight away, then they're not going to review it even after the. I forgot. Maybe it is those kind of check-ins or something where they
Mm.
kind of stay down so that they're not bothering. So those have been good. Like I'm glad to see those kind of playing on and not impacting too much in the game.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the better games of the round. Man, yeah, I went Storm on this one. The Panthers Storm game. And Panthers without Nathan Cleary and still doing a job on the Storm.
Mm. Yeah, that was a good game. I think the Storm were leading 14-0 at one point, and how many times have they? You could probably count on one hand in the last sort of 10 years how many games they've lost from that point.
Yeah.
They're normally a team that will suffocate you out of the game.
Yeah.
But you got to give a lot of credit to the Panthers. They were really good. I read a really good write-up about this game on Facebook by the Rugby League writers.
All
If
right.
anyone has a look at that, you should check it out. It's pretty good. And they talked about the one percenters. And, if all teams are sort of running the same block plays, and have the same defensive structures, and they're all playing the same similar style, how come the Storm and the Panthers are always at the top, and teams like the
Mm,
Tigers and the Dragons and stuff are always at the bottom? And they showed clips of this game and highlighted some of the one percenters and the dark arts that these teams do really well. So both of these
all right.
teams are elite at doing, the little things really well. And they showed
Mm,
things like, they showed this clip of James Fisher-Harris just sprinting out of the line to put kick pressure on Munster. Big Nelson, he did the same thing to Luai. And both of those instances, they ended in sort of seven tackle sets to the opposition. But they
mm.
also showed some of the escorts, some of the best escorts and running people off the
Yeah,
ball from a kick
yeah.
chase I've ever seen from both sides. But the
Ah,
Panthers in particular, man, they are the masters of doing these escorts, eh? So they've got this gun back three with To'o and Dylan Edwards and that. And they're
yeah.
renowned for the kick returns and the running meters that they get and stuff.
Mm.
But the escorts they get to make sure they get clean catches on the ball and clear a path to run upfield is bloody phenomenal, man.
Well, and
So
it's
yeah,
legal. It's just the way
it's
they're
it's
running players. Just
yeah, like it doesn't look like a penalty. It's sort of like he just little shoves where you hold them off for like a second. But that one
okay.
second makes all the difference. So instead of him catching the ball and getting smashed backwards by the tackler, he catches the ball, gets a little bit of time and puts on a little bit of footwork,
Just
and
put
he
us.
just a normal tackle, and then he gets that quick play of the ball, and then they're off. So it's just those little things that they do really well. That this
Mm-hmm.
guy he really highlighted it. So it was that makes all the difference, and it's just those little things that show why these two teams, Melbourne and Penrith, are always sort of there or thereabouts come playoff time because of their ability to just do these little things, these dark arts. They're masters at it. So yeah, if you get a
Well,
chance to have a
yeah.
look, it's a bloody good read, eh, and a good watch.
Oh, yeah. No, send me the link because yeah, I guess that's. that was something I was contemplating, just watching some of those blowout scores, and I was just trying to rewatch, trying to figure out like what is it like? Is it a fitness thing? Like how do these these good teams like just play so well for long periods of the game?
Mm.
Um, yeah, and I guess it just comes down like it's not cheating, but it's it's just really knowing the law, just really like Canterbury, it's just that
Yeah,
you're playing within the rules, and people will like hate you because it's so niggly, but it's like we're using it to advantage, and just those 1% of plays that just that effort area where people don't usually see it during the game makes such a difference.
yeah. Well, these were all things that, you wouldn't have noticed unless someone actually pinpoints and highlights it to you. So you're right. And I thought it was just really interesting how we mentioned, all the teams are running the same attacking
Mm-hmm.
structures, the same defense structures. Everyone's doing the similar trainings. So why are these guys, what are they doing? Just these little slight improvements have made a massive difference to both teams. But the escorts, you have a look at how they do it. It's bloody amazing.
Oh, sweet. I'll check that out. Yeah, send me that one. All right. Talking of doing the little things well, the our Warriors versus the Rabbitohs. I went to that very cold,
Oh,
wet,
bro.
and what ended up very miserable game over at Mount Smart. Yeah, I haven't watched it on replay. I watched it live. But yeah, I don't know. Well, what happened there? What did you see going wrong? I saw a lot of just that attention to detail again, like just that what we've been doing all year, just really high completion, just doing the real simple things well, like those um not having to run people off the ball, but just sticking in the game, holding in the game. Yeah, and just those drop balls and just little mistakes. Yeah, a few calls against us, but yeah, I think that was the most disappointing thing. Just seeing the guys get a roll on and not capitalizing.
Mm. Yeah, that was it in a nutshell. So they could win by the Rabbits. They played better wet weather football, and I think
Yeah,
that was the thing. One thing I noticed you could see it quite well on TV. They compressed their defensive line and defended sort of inside out,
yeah,
and it looked like the
yeah.
outside channels were open for the Warriors, and that invited the Warriors to try and go around
Try and
them.
go wide. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and you're right because that's what they try to do.
yeah,
And embarrassing like that last play where they got pushed out because
yeah.
they try to do that. Like seeing it so condensed, like because you could see like from on field, like just seeing like heaps of we were in like man, we never made it out of like just their work. Cody's kicking game, like we were on our like a lot of our sets, we were like inside our 50 trying to kick down, but then just not getting down there to keep that pressure. But yeah, running it out of our own half, like you're saying, we were really condensed, and I think that's that was us trying to stick to our game plan, pushing through the middle. But then, yeah, like you're saying, I think we just fell into the trap of seeing it open out wide and thinking we could just go wide straight away instead.
Yeah, yeah. And I mentioned this
Yeah,
earlier, it was a tough one to lose. I mean, we
yeah,
were speaking about every podcast throughout the year, the closeness of the comp. And I talked about this just in the opening, if the Warriors had won, we'd be fourth. But now we're just
yeah,
barely holding on to eighth just after that one loss. So I'm not too
yeah.
worried because we've got some winnable games in the back end of the season. So I still trust
Mm,
the Warriors to finish well. But that was a frustrating loss. And it's not often the Warriors get a sellout. So to get a
yeah.
sellout and put on that performance, you're thinking if you're a fan who paid, you're thinking, shucks, the next one comes up, should I go? And that's sort of the downside. That's probably the worst performance they've put in all year, I think. So, and definitely in
Yeah,
terms
and
of the scoreboard.
in that weather as well, to have people come out for you in that weather. So yeah, both playing in the same weather, so they can't blame the weather either. The rabbits weren't tucking it under their arm; they were throwing it around and able to catch the ball. So weather
Mm-hmm.
didn't play a factor, I think, for the guys. Um, Interesting though, like I saw that there was a write-up that came out earlier, well, at the end of last week, about Kiwi fans turning off rugby to the NRL. So you mentioned it yourself, just for as a rugby fan, and now there was a
Mm.
write-up about that. Um, you reckon that's an NRL overall, or more of a following the Warriors because they're kind of going all right? I thought.
Yeah, maybe a bit of both. I think that I don't know the TV numbers, but I think that the NRL games and just in general are getting more viewership on Sky. But the Blues got pumped by 50 in a semi-final, and the Warriors they've been up there or thereabouts. I think we just finished round 18, and the Warriors have been in the top 8 for 17 of those 18 rounds. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, the Warriors doing good, and the Blues being a bit gaia. People have only got limited income, so they can't necessarily afford to go to both. So I know that the Warriors can get a lot of bandwagons, which is
Mm.
fine. Like as a fan, you think, well, the Warriors are doing
Yeah,
good and people want to watch them. I'm all right with it. But it's a massive opportunity because rugby is getting boring.
yeah,
And Super Rugby, since South Africa's left, is a bit on the guy side. The Australian teams just aren't there. So it's New
yeah,
Zealand teams all the way. We've seen an all New Zealand final, and New Zealand isn't. They've got 5 teams, or maybe 6 if you include Moana Pasifika, and they had the top 3 teams on
yeah,
the table. So people are sick of rugby, and this is an opportunity for the NRL and the Warriors in particular to really
mm-hmm.
make up some
Pick
of
up
that
some new
ground because
fans. Yeah.
yeah, pick up some new fans for sure. So come on, Warriors, mate. Don't let us down now. Don't let us down now. This is a really massive opportunity. And it is working because this is the most, not just this game, but I've been to
Yeah,
a couple
yeah,
of games
weeks
as
in a row.
well. Yeah, they're getting up. The crowds have been up there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, sellout crowds for the last three I've been to, so yeah, it's pretty crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are fans out there who want to watch good quality live sport. And if you're not getting it from
Mm.
rugby, then they'll come and watch the league instead.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they're not getting it from rugby. So this is a real opportunity for the
Yeah,
Warriors
because I
to
think
make
the
some
fan
real
like
inroads.
those guys at the game too. It was a bit hard to watch. Maybe it was just where I was sitting because the rain couldn't hear. But a lot of the chants went there, so I don't know if it's just more rugby fans because yeah, you kind of have to censor yourself. The league fans are full on compared to the union
Oh,
fans. So
mate,
it
yeah,
was a
hard.
bit quieter the support, so maybe there's a bit more union fans there at the game now.
Well, it could be. Oh, that might not be a good thing. They might, that's the last thing you want is it to just be a dead,
Yeah, exactly.
dead
Then it's
atmosphere.
called yeah. Um,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think that's the other thing about the NRL. Other than this week, the games and the ladder's so close. The comp you get a real good assortment of games too. Like especially like you're saying with the South Africa teams gone from Super Rugby. Like it's just it's hard watching the same teams and then kind of predictable results.
Yeah.
Whereas generally week on week, we do get a lot of good matchups. Yeah, unfortunately for the game, there was just some real disappointing performances this week.
Yeah. We did our Counteract podcast and we did some preseason predictions and almost everyone picked the top 3:
Yeah,
Crusaders, Chiefs, and Blues, and that they will come out of one of those 3 teams. And that proved to be right. So it was quite easy to predict week in, week out who was going to win. There was hardly any upsets. It was so predictable, which made it boring. And at least with
yeah.
the NRL, yeah, I'm glad I didn't. I don't know if we did a preseason one, but I'm glad I didn't come on because I would have picked the Roosters and probably the Cowboys, Roosters Cowboys final, and none of them have been in the top 8 or even the Cowboys are ninth, but I don't think they've either of them been in and
Been in
around
the
the top
eight.
8 for much of the season. So I'd look like a bit of an idiot, and I probably want to come on again. So I'm glad I missed that one.
All right, we'll wrap the last and the first game of the round last week. The Sharks game. Who did the Sharks have? Uh,
Sharks
the
had.
first game, yeah, was another dragon. The Dragons, the
Oh yeah.
woeful Dragons, yeah, off the back of a loss to the Warriors. Yeah, these guys, I guess off the back of all those dramas too. Um,
Mm.
it's, there was a few guys that like hats off to the Dragons. Like, yeah, I don't know if the Ben Hunt, when he's kind of putting out, he wants to change teams, he wants a premiership. We need better players here. Um, how is it? It's a bit hard to kind of play behind a guy like that. But man, watching guys like DeBellin and Blake Laurie, they really stood up. A lot of effort from those guys. So I could see those guys were playing for the jersey, but yeah, it's a hard watch
Mm.
as if you're a Dragons fan. But then on the flip side, man, it's awesome to watch the Sharks once they get going.
Yeah. their attack is really smooth, the Sharks. They've got so many players in motion. Nico Hines is pulling the strings, and they've got Will Kennedy there, who's obviously he's the fullback. Nico Hines, he played a lot of fullback at Melbourne, and that 5'8" they've got there, whose name escapes me, he played a lot of fullback in his day. So they've got these three fullbacks who, if you're a fullback, you're really aware of space and time. That
Moylan,
sort of
Moylan. So.
yeah, Moylan. So
Mm.
these guys they've got all these runners, strong ball runners and hole hitters and all the rest of it, and they're ball playing through the middle as well. So their attack is it's good to watch. But we in a round full of blowouts, I thought the Dragons at least put up a fight for say 30 minutes, which is
Yeah,
more than the
yeah,
Tigers. The Tigers 10 minutes in and they're under the post for their second try already, and
yeah.
so I will give the Dragons some credit for that. They at least
Mm.
tried.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think it was in that first 30, that's where I just saw, like Blake Laurie, doing massive hit-ups and, DeBellin was tackling everything. So that's where I was like, just seeing them and just
hmm,
thinking, these guys are really just going out there to play for this jersey and trying to, prove a point. So yeah, real unfortunate for them.
yeah.
A couple of times there, I don't know if there was like, it looked like Benny was specific, like purposely being skipped on past some of those passes. So I don't know. There's something going on there if that's just me reading into that game.
Oh, maybe. Because
Yeah,
that was a Thursday. I think it was a Thursday night game, which comes
yeah,
on quite
yeah.
late for me. So I only watch maybe like the first 30 minutes, half time. So I miss some of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, you see the Sharks. They're doing what they do. They struggled against other top 8 teams, but they punish the Gaia teams, and this is no
Yeah.
different. So what have
Well,
you made
yeah.
of the Sharks? They've been consistently in and around the top 4. But no one's really talking them up as sort of in that title contenders conversation, which is quite interesting for a team that's always up there.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you
And
made it? What do you made of the Sharks?
I like them. I like the way they play, eh? Like they're quite they've got really strong middles and they just
Hmm.
like I think just because they're such a well-drilled team, they make it look easy. Like that's just footy. Like they'll just do some real good hit-ups in the middle, kind of bash them there, and then they go wide real quick, and it's just smooth, like you're saying with those I guess three fullbacks just linking up, and they just seem to find those edges real quickly and just
Yeah,
real crisp passes. I think it was one of the other commentators, one of the games, me just showing like just the stuff they do where they just go to the line and know that someone's going to be there, so they'll always just be ready. And I think that's why they look so smooth. They'll pass, and players are always running onto it. That Talakai Ronaldo combo, that just works real well.
yeah.
Good to see Talakai getting a few more touches. He had a better game. Hasn't, yeah, I think there was a bit of a build up that one game that last year, and I think everyone's just been waiting for that to come back. And yeah, I think Manly was the only unfortunate losers out of him having that awesome game. Other than that, he hasn't really fired a shot. He's been, solid centre, but yeah,
What
unfortunately
he
not.
carved up Morgan Harper, who we now know
Yeah,
he's a French first
exactly.
grader, man. He's
Yeah,
got defensive frailties. We know that now. So no, that was an outstanding
yeah,
game. I know the game you're talking about, where that was one
mm,
of the best individual performances I've seen from a centre in a long time. But yeah. Mm.
yeah. And then I guess that was another off the back of that. He scored an Origin jersey, so I think Freddy's got a bit of a trend going with his, get excited after one game and start putting players in.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, with that, since we're with the Sharks, let's jump straight to Origin picks. Nico Hines, 11 minutes in the first game. I think everyone's on the same page. Just why? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a good. I wish I had a good answer for that one. I feel for him, mate, because 11 minutes at centre. He's a fullback. He's a 5'8". He's a halfback. He could probably play a bit through the middle, which he did for Melbourne a little bit as well when he was playing 14. Just
mm,
sort of that roaming role through the middle. But centre is probably the one position where you wouldn't want to put him in just because of the defensive reads. So to
yeah,
say, oh, you played 11 poor minutes out of position. And if Tommy Turbo didn't get injured, you probably would have just spent 80 minutes on the bench and then say, "Oh, you're surplus to requirements now." I think that's rough on the young dude. So,
Mm.
but you're right. It's been a feature of Freddy's selection. He's got a lot of head scratches in there, and he's got a lot of guys that he doesn't really give a chance to, and then they're just on the scrap heap. So Nico Hines is in that category. And now we've got Utui Kamanu in the after his 10 minutes in
Yeah.
Origin 2, and he's gone. And I'm like, well, what is? I don't know if he's saying to these guys, Hines and Utui Kamanu, you've got 10 minutes, and you better get close to man of the match, otherwise you're out. You're on the scrap heap. So, yeah, a head scratch there, and I feel for Nico Hines. I think he's been treated poorly.
Mm.
In saying all that, I do agree with the selection of Mitch Moses. And if you think about
Yeah.
Nico Hines and Mitch Moses, they're both halfbacks who are right side dominant.
Mm.
So, I mean, unless he's going to take Mitch Moses' place, which would have been harsh on Mitch Moses to be dropped, then I wouldn't have picked him as the left ball playing 5'8". I would have gone for a left side guy. So that means it was out of
Yeah.
Luai and Walker.
And Cody.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
from that side,
And I think
I'm
that does justify like Mitchell Moses didn't do enough to get dropped, and so I'm glad that he got to retain his spot. Yeah, it's just unfortunate for Nico that he didn't get the first dibs on it. Game two, I think he would have been able to take it in game two and be able to hold on to it as well.
yeah. And you look at the confidence for the guys. Like after he came back
Yeah,
from that Origin performance, and he played his worst ever game like in a year
yeah,
against Melbourne, and you could tell that was weighing on his mind. So he's
mm.
crushed the poor guy's confidence so much that he's only looks like he's just starting to get back to it now. And that's the thing that I don't like about it is like he's just ruining a lot of these young dudes. And
But
if you think if you're a
I
new
think it
guy,
is. Yeah,
if you're a new guy who just gets in the side, the back of your mind you're thinking, shucks, I have to get close to man of the match, otherwise I'm going to be thrown in the scrap heap. So what's Bradman Best? What's going through his mind right now? And all these other guys, even Cody Walker's probably thinking, shucks, if I don't do it, he's just going to throw me under the bus.
well, yeah. And I think that it is a big point, like especially for these boys, not just for their Origin career, but just as their taking it back to club level as well. But I think for the Origin culture, it's like you guys keep talking about New South need to go back and kind of get that connection, but this isn't helpful. Like I think what Freddie's doing just for the culture of a New South. Um, uh, Speaking on behalf of you guys, like as a fan, but also as just for these players, just like you're saying, just that in and out. Like it's hard to really want to buy in and know you belong in this
Mm,
jersey
mm,
when it's kind of you get brought in off the back of an awesome performance and very much that's on the back of your mind. Not going out there to have fun, not going out there to be this is my dream I've had since I was little to pull on this jersey. Now it's like I have to perform as the best I can, and that's your one focus. And yeah, I guess the beauty of making the team and just getting to have that fun of being in the Origin arena probably just gets overshadowed with I really need to play well to kind of stand up here. So
yeah.
yeah,
That, that
yeah,
mindset too. If you go into a game thinking I don't want to get dropped, and you can go into your shell a little
yeah,
bit. You don't want to
yeah.
make mistakes, and that's when you start sort of playing conservative
Doing
and
things that
playing
isn't,
different. Yeah, different
yeah.
to how you would normally play at club level, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it can be an unhealthy mindset. So rather than him unleashing the guys and saying, "Look, I've got faith in you. Go out and play your game and shoot your shots." The guys are going in a bit fearful, like I don't want to get dropped, so I'm not going to force this pass
Yeah,
or throw this offload or whatever. And that's not a good mindset to be
yeah. And
for Origin.
hopefully, game three, hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully they've kind of given a bit of license to go, look, it's a dead rubber, just like because someone like Cody Walker having Palomatangi there, like that should hopefully he's just given rein to go, look, doesn't matter what the result is, just go. If Cody's allowed to play like he did against the Warriors and just have fun out there,
Mm,
I think we could be in for some trouble because I think, yeah, this is the kind of game that he'll play his best. If it's kind of like, look, there's nothing on the line, Cody, just go for it. I think, yeah, especially with Mitchell Moses, like, could be a dangerous combination there. Just really comes down to what they're being told throughout the week.
Yeah.
Is this go out there, just give it your best and have fun, or they've kind of been given a different kind of tagline. Good to see Jake Travojevic back in. Little game time, but off the back of what we saw in that last game against the Roosters, he's ready. Looks ready.
Yeah, he's also a proven Origin guy. So,
Mm-hmm.
that goes a long way. You need some experience. You need guys you can
Yeah,
trust, and at least you know what you're going to get out of Jake Travojevic. So, yeah, I was happy with that selection. I thought,
yeah,
I think the interesting part for me is probably the bench, what they're going to do with that, because Gutho's on there. I don't know
mm.
how they if there's no
Yeah.
injuries, is
He
he going
might
to
be
just sit
another
there?
unfortunate Nico Hines story there. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, again, and like just the communication from Freddy is just. I guess he's just been out. Like it's real hard to listen to Freddie when you hear someone like Billy on the other side, very clear on what he wants to do. Like his selections, it's all been thought through. He knows exactly the game plan he's going for. Doesn't make sense to most people, but when you see it play out, it's like, okay, this guy knows what he's up to. Whereas, Freddie will say something, and when it doesn't come off, he just throws it out the window. So I think that's the biggest thing to kind of what when you look at Freddie, it's like is there a plan here? Because kind of what you spoke about, switching in guys. Like I'm glad he kept Teddy, but then it's kind of like you'd only change out these players if you're looking to, change the way you're going to play the game.
mm,
And so again, it's kind of like I'm glad with the forwards. Minus Payne Haas because of injury. Like this is probably your best forward pack, starting forward pack. But again, the reserves and what, like he's saying, Gutho's there just so we don't have to try and cover some centre with someone like Damien Cook. And I'm like, that was a freak accident. Why are you planning for some random accident to happen again?
yeah.
Like,
I think that's the thing is sort of because they put Gutho on the bench. There's one
mm,
middle forward short, and that's where
yeah,
the loss of Payne Haas could be quite significant because he's that guy who can play 60, 70 minutes. So someone's going to
mm,
have to play big minutes in that middle because they don't have that extra middle on the bench. And that's where another head scratcher on the selection policy. So you talk about Queensland. Well, we could have probably picked that Queensland ourselves, even though we're not experts by any stretch of the imagination.
yeah,
AJ Brimson was 18th man. Walsh is
yeah,
out. He comes straight in. He's been in the camp
mm,
before. He knows the style. He comes straight back in. And then whoever else was injured, Fleckler's out, and then they're bringing in whoever they brought in for there. So it was quite logical
yeah. You
selections.
kind of see like that's the whole point of having these
Yeah,
extended benches. You
exactly.
kind of see, yep, they've been in camp, and that's just how it works. Whereas this guy's just like, "Oh, this guy hasn't been in camp. Let's give him a turn." Bradman, what are you up to this week? Oh, cheers, guys.
Yeah, and
Um,
it does sort of feel like if you play good the week before Origin, you might
yeah,
that might be enough to get you in, and that's where
yeah,
Bradman Best is coming from. Sort of, he's had one great game all year, and that
yeah.
just happened to
Well,
coincide with the week before the selection.
or even
Um,
then, like if you play really awesome before the Origin selection week, it's almost like, well, you better hope your game's closer to the end of the week as well, then, because Nico Hines, like that first game of the week, you go, oh, he should be back in. And
yeah,
then because it was at the beginning of the week, I think Freddie forgot and just went, oh. And I'm not sure how Nico went. I'll just go with these guys.
yeah,
But again, like it makes sense. Yeah, Mitchell did nothing wrong in game two to deserve not to be there. Um, uh, yeah, other than Bradman though, like, he may have a good game, but it's actually a decent game for game three. I'm glad Cameron Murray's starting.
yes,
Isaiah Yo like just didn't fire in the first two, so
mm,
deservedly dropped to the bench. Not sure how he's going to play him. Maybe he'll swap him out with Damien Cook. Not sure what the plan was there.
yeah.
Bold or unlucky. Good to see one of the Saifidi brothers back in, but yeah, again, Junior was, I think Jacob got in because again the game was last one of the later games in the week, and so Freddy watched that one and went, yeah,
Yeah.
Jacob ripped up.
Wow, it makes you think how far down is Utu Kamanu gone? You know, Regan
Yeah,
Campbell-Gillard's coming, Jake Trbojevic is
yeah.
coming,
Even
and
Menu on the
Jacob
reserves and so
Saifiti's
yeah,
coming. Yeah, Liniu's on the reserve, so he's gone from bench for game two to way down the line. And if Payne Haas wasn't injured, he'd be there. So he's dropped off the face of the earth almost. And I'm like, what didn't you like in the 10 minutes that you saw him? I didn't see enough to make a decision on if he was good or not.
mm,
So. But I agree with you on Cam Murray. I mean, he made a difference on the two games that he came on. The
mm,
problem that
yeah,
they had was he didn't come on until I think he came on the 45th minute in game two when the score was already like 16-0 or something like that. So,
yeah,
the game was close to being gone at that point. So, but even though that he came on and he made a difference, and I talked about
yeah,
this in last week's pod where you got Isaiah Yeo who does great things at Penrith. But what they do is
mm,
they try to manipulate the defense and target those weak
that's right.
defenders
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
pull those guys out with this ball playing. But when everyone's good in Queensland, that doesn't really work. And Josh Hannay, who coaches the outside backs for Queensland, he came up with this defensive strategy. Whenever Isaiah Yeo gets the ball, is to jam in because he's going to try and play out the back and all the rest of it, so they can shut down the space. And
yeah,
they
yeah.
did that to Cleary in game one to perfection. Cleary was ineffective, but he was
Mm,
getting the ball on the back of shape from Isaiah Yeo, doing what they do at Penrith. And they were just jamming in and shutting those plays down straight away. And they did the same in game two. So New South Wales again tried to play around them, and there was heaps of passes that would get passed out over the sideline through just defensive pressure on the jam. So Josh Hannay, mate, he was that was quite clever. I don't rate him that much as a player or a coach, but no, mate, Billy Slater gave him his props. That's where I think Cam Murray's going to add a point
mm.
of difference.
Make a
He doesn't
difference.
do
Yeah,
that much. He's got good league speed and quick play the ball. And that could bring Damien Cook into the game, his running off those quick play the balls, which also brings Tedesco into play with his support play through the middle. So I think the slight change in tactics, it looks like they're going to try and run through the middle first. Then they can collapse. Once they collapse the middle, they can shut. The edges
mm,
will start to turn in, and that can open up the space out wide. But you got to run through them first. So
yeah.
I like the
Well, yeah,
selection
yeah. I like
policy.
this. Yeah, I like these forwards though. Like Liam Martin starting. He's always
Yep,
hard, so I like him.
yep.
RCG's a huge in, so
Mm.
yeah. If that's the way they're going, Keon in the middle there too. So yeah, just punching through the middle. I think that's probably a decent tactic against these some of these smaller guys and Cotter,
Mm.
Nanai. So should actually be a good third game. Yeah, I guess a lot of people writing it off as a dead rubber, but um, yeah, yeah, it's actually a decent side. Um, I guess with all the changes, ins and outs, Freddy, win or lose, you reckon he's done?
I would like to see him done. And
Yeah.
I spoke about this with Simon last week as well, where Simon said, "Oh, he's won three of his six series, 50% record. That's not too shabby." But
Mm.
if I'm on the perspective where you want him out, I say he's lost three of his last four series. So I tried to twist the stats to say that, and I'm going with that. He's lost three of
Yeah.
his last four series, but more than that, he's been outcoached. He's
Mm.
been outcoached
Yeah.
from Slater. Like that on the paper, New South Wales team,
Yeah.
they've been
Before
thoroughly
this,
beaten. But
yeah.
on paper,
Before the
they're not that
series,
bad.
yeah. Before the series, like you look at the talent New South Wales had to draw on, and you kind of, yeah, you kind of, as a Maroons fan, I was like, okay, well, this is going to be a real hard series for us. And Kalen not really firing at the beginning of the year. Reese still being new. It was all
Mm,
this untested stuff. So it was like, oh man, on paper, like these guys got a solid team. A lot of guys that have been there, like experience. You look across the board, and yeah, now like the experience that was there at the beginning of the year has gone out the window. Yeah, I think for me, Freddie, just the chopping and changing is detrimental to the Origin brand. I think for the New South Wales as well. Like just trying to build up these guys to buy into the jersey and know how
yeah.
much it means, and just to see guys given a chance and don't do well and just given the chop. Like yeah, I think that's the hard. Like yes, injuries happen. Latrell, and I think that's probably been another thing. Your three injuries are to three of your best players.
Yeah.
Cleary, Turbo, and Latrell out from injury, so that doesn't do any favors for the team either.
Mm.
But I'm the same. I think Freddy's done. Win or lose. A good chance of actually winning this one though. Looking at this, up there in Sydney too. So
Yeah, I
should
like
be a
what
good
Slater's.
game.
Yeah, I like what's like you talked about that with Slater, like and the difference. So he's picked some guys. There were some head scratches at the start, like when Dane
Mm.
Gagai got dropped, and he's picking the hammer at centre. He picked Murray Taulangi, who was average. The whole Cowboys team was average at that
Yeah,
point,
to begin of the
like a
year,
month.
I was the same. Like, well, I would have had Hammer on the side and kept,
Hmm.
and so it's
But
just
he's
pause
picked
like
these
that.
young guys, and he said, "You know what? I trust you," and they've repaid that faith. Whereas you look at Freddy,
Yeah,
he's like, if you make one mistake, don't call me. I'll lose my number. You're going to be gone for the rest of the series. And they've played like that, like Hines and all these other guys. They've played like they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders.
mm.
Whereas it looks like Slater said, "Hey, look, I trust you. Don't worry about what the media's saying." And
Yeah,
and they play like they've got the coach has faith in them. So Nanai, Kora, all the guys who thought, these guys haven't been playing that good. Taulangi, Hammer, and
and that's
yeah,
the
they've
thing.
repaid it tenfold.
Yeah, by giving that faith to them, man, these guys have not only ripped up in Origin, but just gone back to their clubs as.
Mm,
You look at Xavier Coates, kind of like meandering through the storm this season.
yeah.
Then he comes and rips up for the Maroons and goes back and yeah, it's just crazy to just see the turnaround in some of these guys after they turn up for Origin and just get this. Yeah, I don't know what Billy puts in their tea, really.
Mm. I suppose that's the thing. Like, I'm with you that Freddie should go, but I can't think of someone who they can get. Like, I want
Mm,
someone who's sort of not tied to NRL coaching because I think it's
yeah,
too much to do both. And someone who's played for New South Wales, but someone who knows about coaching. I know Billy Slater's
yeah,
a bit of a anomaly in the fact that he's come in with no coaching experience
yeah.
and shown that he's an elite sort of
Just
mastermind guy.
yeah, maybe that's just that Bellamy kind of influence, just becoming students of the game, just understanding it so well from what Bellamy kind of grills those guys through. Because they all seem like they've got real good rugby league IQ, all those guys that come through the Storm system.
Yep.
Um, Bellamy, yeah, I don't know. Maybe Bellamy could have another shot at Noosa. Maybe step down from Storm. Isn't he still considering? Is he signed for next year now? Back to the Storm.
Yeah, I think he signed one more year. They've got Jason Rolls there who's coming over. I don't know,
That's
he's
right.
like
Yeah,
some
yeah.
type of role. And I think that's the plan is that he'll do one more
Jason
year
out
and
and Riles
then
will.
Rolls will be the coach. So, I don't know. Maybe I would consider Bellamy. He's a coaching mastermind, and he's not the
Mm-hmm.
type of guy who'll throw someone on the scrap heap if they don't perform. So,
Yeah.
he's the
Yeah, I
type of
think
guy who
that's
can
the
get the
thing.
best out
He's
of
like,
players. Eh?
yeah, he's a real people person as much as he seems like a hard ass. You see that relationship he has with a lot of his players. So yeah, I think that's
Mm,
what they kind of just to get these guys buy-in, but also, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think yeah, just different. Like New South, yeah, need to kind of get that connection back to the jersey, but I think not overdoing that too. Like just going back to like we're a better team, we got better skill. Let's just do that and double down on that work because I think there's a bit too much kind of hype on the New South Wales kind of wanting to do like what Queensland do and play for the jersey and blah blah blah. It's like, that's a Queensland. Yes, that's what they were bred on because it's kind of like from ancient times or
mm,
since the 80s, kind of winning and then just going on with that whole underdog theme and, scrap and fight for every, those origin moments. And that's always been a Queensland trademark. But I think New South was always, just one out of better play and kind of, I think it's going back to that, like getting a good coach to just let these, because yeah, like the roster of players, I guess, after the fact, you can look at this Queensland team and go, oh man, those guys are all good, but it's at the beginning of the season, like you were saying, Murray Taulagi against that okay, you just laugh and go, oh, just gonna run circles around this guy.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things though, because that Queensland do have that passion. It's sort of like New South Wales has to have a significantly better team to combat that. Because if the teams are even, you feel that passion and stuff they got for the jersey will be enough to get Queensland over the line, and it has been. You look at some
Mm.
of the miracle wins that they've been able to
Okay.
pull off in history. And
Yeah.
just as a New South Wales fan, when the game's close and it gets to that last 5 minutes, your stomach sinks a little bit, thinking, "Oh no, not again." And
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Queensland
and
have
yeah, like
that,
you're saying,
so
yeah, you need that extra bit of like what Jared Hayne did. You need a Jared Hayne to kind of get you guys over the line to kind of win those series and not
hmm.
end up.
Yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that, well, it looks like the tactics we've got is to run through them first,
Yeah.
which is the right call. We need to collapse the middle, get the edges moving in, and then we can attack wide. It looks like they tried to play around them too much, pass too much, and then when they jammed in, it wasn't working. So yeah, I think this is a better style, and I'm predicting a better outcome for New South Wales.
Mm.
Mm.
I'm looking forward to Cody. I'm glad they try to. I'm sick of people giving him that tag of he's a hot head and they try and get under his collar. So I'm glad he's kind of got that out of his game and it's not too much of a focus because yeah, it seemed to be like maybe just media too bringing so much of that that he kind of fell into it and just kept getting roped in by teams. So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully I hope Queensland don't use those tactics on him, just trying to get under his collar. I think he's a better player than that. But I'd like to see Cody just run free.
Yeah, I saw on both games. So New South Wales, they've won the penalty count on both games. They've won the possession stakes on both games. They've had more tackles in the opposition 20 for both games. Yet that hasn't translated into points on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, I think, why Luai paid the price, because that falls on the halves a lot. And you think with that much ball in that red zone, someone like Cody Walker, his ball playing
Yeah.
on that left edge, I think he could have made a difference. So I think that's sort of why they thought, now if we can get those same results again and get more shots in their 20-meter zone, that's Cody's specialty. He can kill a
Mm-hmm.
team with his ball playing, his passing game, picking the right guy. So first they need to collapse the middle, and that's where it all starts. So I'm optimistic, even though I've been optimistic in game two, which was a bit of a bloodbath. So yeah,
But
we'll see.
yeah, it might work. Like, yeah, that left edge, like, I guess if he kind of works in Matangi, but then you've got Bradman there, kind of used to that left edge working with Kalen as well. So I
Mm,
guess, yeah,
mm.
just giving that room. I think that's the only thing, as long as Bradman's not trying to overplay his hand, because he's just going to kind of get in the way of Matangi a lot. That's the only kind of risk there. Just
Well,
trying to do too much.
he's a good hole runner, Bradman
Mm.
is. So you think if he can run hard lines off Cody's ball playing, it could work. It could work.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, well, all the best for that game, mate. That's
I think
yeah, it
I've
should
talked
be good.
myself
Like,
into
yeah.
thinking New South's going to win now. I didn't think they were going to win. Now I just took myself into it.
You never know, right? It's a decent team on paper. On paper, it's hopefully these guys don't turn up and do paper tackles.
Oh yeah, true.
Before we move on to previews of this week's games, just coming out of the headlines today, the players RLPA have allowed the players to strike from all media this week. So no press conferences, no halftime, no beginning of the game or after the game, conversations with any of the media. So they can do midweek stuff, go on the John show and all that. But yeah, what do you see in this? I don't think it's detrimental to the game. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they do have to make a stand because they're not quite getting what they want from the NRL and all the rest
Mm.
of it. So you think out the deals that the NRL have signed, so they signed those $1 billion TV deals. They negotiated the streaming rights separately, so the game is making literally billions of dollars.
Mm.
And I think the players are trying to get their share of the pie. And I heard. I think it was on Bloke in a Bar. This is going back a bit, so I can't quite remember the full details. That the NRL players, in terms of what they're getting, if you compare it to what, as a percentage of the overall revenue, compared to what English Premier League's getting and the NBA and all the rest of it, they're getting quite a significant amount less as a percentage, and that's what they wanted.
Okay.
They wanted to get if the revenue increases, they wanted their percentage. They wanted their share to increase. So just getting a certain percentage. So if it increases by X amount, then their revenue increases by X amount, which I thought was a fair thing. But just
Okay.
looking at some of these other things there, and they're looking after some of the other players. So it's not just the the top guys getting a bit more richer. They want to increase the minimum wage for some of the fringe first graders, and set up some hardship programs for people who have career-ending injuries, and some other programs in terms of when people retire and other things outside of the game. So I know there's been a lot of kickback saying, oh, these players are just greedy trying to get a bit more money, but it's not just about that, it's about other things. So it's unfortunate it's gone to this stage where they have to boycott doing media, because I know that does help to grow the game and increase interest in the game. But I feel like in some ways it might be a necessary step to get these across the line, because these aren't. I don't think the demands are unreasonable. So yeah. Or what are your thoughts? What's your take on it?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to read through so some of the stuff that they've Ralph's put on the table. I guess it's quite hard. Like you look at numbers like this, and they're willing to give them a share total payments between 2023 and 2027, $1.347 billion. So to me, that just looks like, well, that's a lot. Like you're saying, like it's easy for people to go, oh, these guys just want more money. So yeah, it doesn't show what percentage share that is of the total revenue. So yeah, to be able to be given a big chunk like that, and the players, like you're saying, there's other benefits as well. It's not just these monetary incentives, um, financial benefits beyond it as well, just for their player welfare, injuries and stuff. But yeah, so I guess when you don't have all the full details, numbers like that look staggering, and to think that that's not fair, yeah, obviously goes to show how much more these organizations are creaming off the top of the players, basically doing all the work. So I'm not too fussed. Yes, there's a bit of exposure that they lose for the game, by not having the players come out. But good on them. I think it's great that the players are able to have a stand, and RLPA is supporting them to do this. Yeah, because I guess like a player's career, everyone wants good working conditions. People will strike at work, for a little bit more pay. We don't get anything near what these guys get. But their period of earnings is very short compared to most people. We get to work normal jobs, and can carry on doing that from a desk. Whereas these guys, 5-10 years if they're lucky. So yeah, I think good on them. Yeah, it'd be interesting not to hear commentary half the time, or kind of their views on how they performed after the game. But yeah, I think it's good for them to make a stand and get what they deserve. I mean, this is a game that's turning players off other sports, and bringing more fans to it. So, and the work that these guys do, to be able to keep the ball and play for such long periods, yeah, I think they do deserve better. So, all the best to the boys.
Yeah. Yeah, like when you like you say 1.347 billion, it does sound like a lot, but the NRL is literally generating billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. So someone's getting paid a lot of money, and the players just want their share of the pie. So I think the original negotiation, I believe, I'm not sure, don't quote me on this, so someone listening to the podcast will be screaming saying this is wrong or this is right. But I think they wanted 30% of total revenue to be paid as wages, which I think is in line with the EPL and the NBA and these other ones. So I think they're on something like 25% or something. And that's why if the revenue increases however much, they should get 30% regardless. So that was what they wanted. I don't know the exact number, but I think that was what it was. There's a listener out there who knows. And I think that was what they wanted. So when they throw out numbers like, oh, we're giving you 1.347 billion, and it sounds like, whoa, you guys are getting
exactly.
a lot. But
Then the general public, yeah.
But I think as a percentage of the total revenue, it's not as much as what other professional leagues around the world are getting, and they just think that, hey, look, this is the sort of a standard. And we're not asking for more. We're just asking for
what everyone else
parity with what other professional leagues around the world are getting.
It's crazy. Even then, like 30%. It's like these clubs are made up of so many people. Yet it's these 17 guys that go out on the field that actually make the game. Like you kind of think these guys are only wanting a third of the cut. Like you guys take the rest. We just want this little From over here. Just a third, please.
Yeah, but it's interesting just the way they word it, where they say we're giving you 1.347 billion, whatever, and then
Yeah,
average Joe's like, "Well, you guys are greedy
yeah,
if he's
yeah.
unhappy
That's
with that."
not.
But it's sort of like, you know what, as a percentage of total revenue, it's not actually in line with what everyone else is getting to.
Mhm.
And I think that's where I think it was Cherry Evans who's like, he's up there with the Players Association. I think he's one of the main reps as a player, and he's the one who brought up that percentage thing that they wanted to. I think that's fair. And they made some decisions without even letting the Players Association know and the player reps. So I think they just decided how much. Oh, here's the new deal, and here's how much you're going to get without any consultation, and that sort of rubbed them up the wrong way. So there's a bit of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
prickly relationship there. So
Yeah, because it sounds like, yeah, that's how it kind of like, they were expecting negotiations where they just keep coming to, here you go, this is what you're getting.
mm.
And it doesn't end up being a negotiation, it just becomes a, here's our offer to you.
and also like how they want to increase the minimum wage. So you think,
Mm.
it's not just they get all this extra money, and that means the top guys go from 1 million to 1.2 million or whatever it is. It's sort of like, the guys at the bottom, I don't know how many people in a squad, if they've got a 30-man squad, for instance,
Mm.
if you're the 30th guy, you're doing all the trainings, all of the
Yeah,
fitness, all the rehab, but you're not getting anywhere near the money. So I'm glad that the bottom guys are getting looked after,
yeah.
because they're putting their body through just as much as the top guys.
Mm-mm. Well, yeah, and those are the guys that, in 2, 3 years' time become the household names. So if you
Mm.
start losing them to other codes or just, realizing, I could go play, Super League, it's a big risk. So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, good on the guys.
If you get bad injuries, and you're like, that affects your quality of life after, and you were the 30th guy in the 30-man squad, you're on the minimum
Yeah,
wage right through. You think to yourself, well, was it worth it? I hardly got
mm.
paid that much, and now I'm dealing with the long-term effects of these horrendous
Yeah, like
injuries.
some,
So at least if they say, well, we're going to increase your minimum wage, we've got this medical support program for retirees and these hardship
yeah,
funds and all the rest of it, then at least that guy is getting looked after. It's not the Jonathan Thurstons and the Cameron Smiths
yeah,
that you're really worried about. It's the other guy at the other end of the spectrum who's put his
yeah,
body
that no
through
one will
hell.
ever hear of. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that no one hears of. Puts his body through hell. He walks with a limp now, and he's got
Yeah,
arthritis in his joints and all this other stuff. And his quality of life is poor. And he was a minimum wage NRL guy.
yeah. Well, yeah, it'd be interesting how many sad stories are like that, and I guess that's why the players are fighting for this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I guess they've all been there at one point. Nice. So, cool. Before we go to breakout, preview this week's games, any other talking points you want to bring up?
Um, I know there's always things to talk about in the NRL, but nothing really comes to my mind at this point. I'm just sort of like, just yeah, watching a lot of the games and then just following the
Mm-hmm.
game. But yeah, no, nothing for me.
Oh, there was one thing. Josh Curran not playing this week. You see that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Has he bookied some kid for taking photos of him in the back?
I think it was a 16-year-old girl. I think it was.
What was she doing in the nightclub? This ass cracking
I don't
guys.
know, but it was a girl, and I think she
Oh, it
was
was a girl.
16.
Oh,
It was 16 or 14. I can't remember what it was. I'll have to look it up. But it
oh,
was an underage girl that he just. I don't know what he done to her. But he was charged with assault,
oh.
and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It says
bruh.
assault. Unless he just banged her phone, maybe, and maybe hit her in the
Oh,
face or
okay, yeah,
something.
okay. I hope
Maybe
so,
because
because
yeah,
it was a
yeah,
lady
yeah.
and she was a little teenager. I'm like, bro.
Oh, I just saw 16, so I just thought it was some little random guy trying to like hustle him because he said he was taking photos and videos earlier, and then he wanted to talk to him, but I didn't realize it was like
Disgraceful,
maybe
mate.
maybe this guy thought he was gonna get asked out, and then he got angry because she was taking photos instead.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, cool. Tomorrow night's game, kicking off the round. Oh, Tigers and the Sharks. Tigers coming off that drubbing last week, so
Mm.
and the Sharks just ripped up the Dragons from the Thursday game, so I don't see much difference from what they did last Thursday to the Dragons happening to the Tigers as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. The Sharks got no Origin players. which is interesting for a top tier team. But I suppose we spoke earlier about, why no one rates them as genuine contenders, and this could be a reason why. They haven't got anyone. Maybe you could argue Nico Hines, who would say this guy is the best in his position. They've got sort of guys who are maybe top 5 in their positions, but they haven't got any origin players. So, but what they do well is pump the weak teams. So I see them putting the Tigers to the sword, man. The Sharks, I'll go Sharks by 20 plus on this one.
Yeah, same. I think I'm going to go 40 plus. I mean, it's the same Sharks game, same Sharks team from last week that pumped the Dragons, and the Dragons put up a good fight for the first 30. So, yeah, I mean, Tigers paying $9.50.
Right.
If you want to waste $10 on that.
$9.50, jeepers.
All right, let's move on from that because I don't think there's much highlights to get from that. Friday night game. Again, the unspoken Raiders doing well against the Dragons. Ben Hunt out for this game. I don't know if that's injury or just.
Well, he's on origin duty.
Oh, of course. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Hudson Young back in for the Raiders. Dropped.
Yeah, we didn't speak about Hudson Young. Another guy who's sort of scratching his head thinking, what the heck are you doing?
What did I do wrong? I got given a chance in the second one again. Yeah, that was interesting. I thought he was just going to stick. I wasn't happy with the Hudson Young call for game 1, but then he brought him back for game 2, so I just said, well, I guess Freddy just likes this kid.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened between game 2 and game 3. How do you see this Raiders game playing out?
Yeah, I think the Raiders will be too good, No Ben Hunt you talked about, and I think Tyrell Sloan is out as well. So that's their main sort of sources of points. So I'm not sure where the Dragons get their points from. And, the Raiders, they're there or thereabouts, and they need to win games like this against these lower teams to push for that top 4, which is what they'll be trying to do. So, yeah, I think they'll win, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it might be a bit of a close one. So I'll go the Raiders by 6. Also played in Wollongong, so the Dragons got a pretty decent record at home at least.
Okay, nice. I think the Raiders should go well in that game. Ben Hunt out, like you're saying, without those guys. This could be a bit of a. Raiders could go on a bit of a run. They're probably good for them as well. Again, like you're saying, with the congestion on the ladder. Raiders have a minus 65 points differential, so they could do well trying to pump the Dragons here just to give themselves a bit of a buffer on those points for it against.
Yeah.
All right. It's a short week this week, so Saturday game got the Warriors and the Eels. Important game for us. How do you see this game? A lot of outs for the Eels. Mitchell, Moses. So Ryan Madison and Dejan running the halves there.
Yeah, I'm not sure Freddy might be a secret Warriors fan because he pulled Gutho out to play Origin, and Regan Campbell Gillard suddenly got a recall for Origin, and that all helps the Warriors. Obviously with those big guys being out, but a lot of it will depend on Sean Johnson. So I know he's expecting his second child any day now, so he's 50-50 to play this week. But with those outs. And I think this match doubles as I think Wade Eakins playing his 100th. Fanor Blake his 150th NRL game, and Dylan Walker's 200th. So I think with that much sort of celebrations, the Warriors will be up for a big occasion. And with those outs, I think that sways it to Warriors. So I'll go Warriors by 14 on that one.
Nice. Yeah, I think they mentioned Dylan Walker will likely slot straight in there. For Sean,
okay.
If baby comes through, I'm happy with Dylan Walker being in there. He's worked together with Johnson earlier in the season, so he should slot straight in there. Real nervous around this next period. for the Warriors. Um, yeah, the end of the season, I kind of did one of those calculations, that does
That ladder predictor.
the ladder
Yeah,
predictor.
I did that as
Man,
well.
I ran that last week and I had us finishing second.
I think I've got us finishing second as well. But that's the biasness where you think the Warriors are going to win every game. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the run that we have over the next few weeks is crucial with us sitting on eighth. We've got Para, then we take on the Sharks. After that, we head over to the Raiders. We get a reprieve with a bye. And then after that bye, it's kind of a good run. We get the Titans, Tigers, Manly, and the Dragons again. So it's really these next three games are probably crucial.
Mm.
Para, quite good with those guys being out. And I guess that's a crucial game just to give momentum. Because then the following week we've got the Sharks, dropping Para this week. Um, yeah, I don't see us beating the Sharks off the back of two losses in a row. I think just the confidence of the guys is really waning by then. I mean, if we drop it to the Sharks, I guess, that's when I just see heads dropping and our season could slip through our fingers even with these last few games.
Yeah.
It just feels like it becomes one of those Warriors mathematical calculations again
Oh,
after the
no.
bye in round 22, which I hate doing those countbacks. So, yep, I think we should get up against. I mean, I said that last week with all the outs that the Rabbitohs had last week. Hopefully, we took some lessons from that. Stick to our game, not try and get sucked in and just getting the easy out and going around. We're
Yeah.
running favourites for this, so yep, I'll pick our Warriors for this one as well.
Nice.
All right, next game of the Saturday night. Saturday night, sure. We have Rabbits and the Bulldogs. Any chance of the Bulldogs getting back up after that drubbing? And Rabbitohs got a few outs, so not sure if you're seeing anything different here. A closer game, possibly.
Yeah, that's why I'm picking a closer game. So, we talked last week, the Rabbitohs, I think they were licking something like 33 points a game for their last five. And that was the one thing they will take out of it, that vastly improved defense against the Warriors last week. And so that was their big issue in their form slump that they had. But, they've lost the origin players a bit, and that evens it out a bit in terms of the matchup. So I like the new signing. The Dogs have got that guy Toby Sexton from the Titans, and he's come straight back in starting halfback.
Oh, okay, cool. Hey, nice.
Yeah, so I quite like him. That's a good pickup. So, but I won't go as far as to pick an upset, but I'm with you. I think it might be a bit closer than some of the pundits might think. So I'll still go for the Rabbitohs, but I'll go say South by say about 4 in that one.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think closer, but yeah, I guess it's just hoping, that that they can turn something around in a week. But yeah, I guess if they haven't done it the whole season, it's hard to kind of see them flipping it on its head, in the space of a few days. All right, last game of the round. Titans and Dolphins, both teams losing a lot of players to Origin. So this should probably a bit of a closer one. Both teams, both Titans winning to the Broncos, Dolphins losing to them. Both really close losses and wins. Where's the difference in this game, you reckon?
Yeah, this one could be match of the round potentially. Those Queensland derbies always have that little bit of spice to them. And the Titans without the origin players, I think that really evens it out, because I would have picked the Titans at full strength to beat the Dolphins. But I'll still pick the Titans in a close one. Jaden Campbell, who I'm a big fan of his, and I think he'll play well with AJ Brimson out on origin duty. So, yeah, I'll go Titans in a close one. Match of the round this one, I'll go Titans by 2.
Nice. Yeah, real good one. Should be a good game. Couture and O'Sullivan, linking up. They looked a bit better last week.
Yep.
I think kind of getting some consistency with them back together too. I'm actually going to go Dolphins on this, just off the back of they've lost quite a few as well. And it's still Wayne Bennett at the helm.
Yep.
Can't go by that fact. A lot of outs. I think the Kieran Foran still being in there is still a big in for the Titans. Probably the difference for them. But yeah, I'm going to go for a close win by the Dolphins. Actually, take this one out. We'll shout that
Yeah,
around.
nice.
Nice. Cool, man. That's a wrap. That's all our games for the week. Yeah, and then I guess after Sunday we get a few days, and then we get to look forward to that Queensland. Um, yeah, game 3,
Yeah,
the
nice.
decider. The
Yeah,
decider for Freddy.
nice. Yeah, bro. Yeah, thanks for having me on. One thing I did want to
Shut off.
say just in
Mm.
closing is one thing I saw Auckland Rugby League. They've signed an agreement with Manly to send their young up and coming players to them and to push
Oh
them
wow.
forward to become NRL players. And they're also in discussions with 3 other NRL clubs, not the Warriors though, to
Wow.
help send them talent. And yeah, just as a Warriors fan, I think that's actually quite shit actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Auckland Rugby League and the Warriors.
There's Auckland Rugby League.
Yeah,
That.
they
Wow.
need to work together to grow the great game. This is a rugby
Yeah,
league
yeah.
country, and a good way to do that would be for the two to be, I think, a bit more closely aligned. I get that they've had issues in the past, the Warriors and Auckland Rugby League, and the two entities haven't always been on the same page.
Mm.
But I think there's been a lot of goodwill through now, and while rugby is boring, now is the time for the two to strike. So in the future,
Yeah,
I'd love
yeah.
to see the Warriors field a match day 17 just full of homegrown players and
Mm.
watch, some local kids grow up to be sort of hometown heroes. But the only way that can happen is if New Zealand's only professional rugby league team, the Warriors, aligns with New Zealand's biggest junior catchment area, which is Auckland Rugby League.
Mm, mm.
So, yeah, I just wanted to say that on the
That's a
podcast, mate.
puzzling one. Yeah,
Get
yeah.
over
That's a
yourselves,
real puzzle.
guys, and make it happen. Leave your differences in the past and
I'll
flipping sort
say
it.
that
I
is
wanted
a
to put
real
that
head
rant.
scratcher. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I wanted to put
that's a
that
good
rant in my
mention, man.
closing statement.
I like it. That's probably a good talking point because you looked at so looking at the Warriors roster now, like with some good coaching at the moment, and seems to be a real happy culture there. Um, but you look at the Warriors roster, like in terms of homegrown talent, it's about 50-50. But all these players, other bar probably Sean Johnson, have all done time overseas before they've come back to us. You got Tohu, or Bunty. Actually, Bunty's probably Bunty and Sean. Sorry, but yeah, Fanua Blake has gone over there and come back. Um, Adam Pompey, Rocco Berry, what Dallin and Chance. So it's a good, yeah, mix of Kiwi talent. But yeah, like you're saying, you'd like to see them having those pathways for the boys. Come on, look, it's awesome to see young talent like that coming into the Warriors. And Simon always says it. We are a hub of second rowers. That's our bread and butter. Guys like Ali Lawatiti coming through, and you know, yeah, it'll be a real shame to just see guys. Yeah, like what happened with Tory Harris, just going straight overseas, and making their name there, and coming back at the twilight of their careers, which has been a trend for us. Which, yeah, and decisions like that don't help us turn it around.
Yeah,
So
there was
come
a
on,
lot of
come on, Auckland.
there's a lot of past issues there. So I know that the Warriors initially, when they were set up way back in '95, well, from Auckland Rugby League's perspective, was they thought it would be a pathway so all the best players who were playing in the Fox Memorial or whatever it was
Mm-mm.
back then would go on and push forward to the Warriors, and then that didn't really happen. They got that they had their owner Eric Watson, who was a co-owner with that other billionaire New Zealander whose name escapes me,
Yeah,
and they made that
yeah.
decision to run the two separate. So they thought that the Warriors are a professional organisation. They should be completely run independently from Auckland Rugby League, who were in charge of the amateur game, and that created a lot of animosity between the two. But there's been some goodwill recently. So they've got I think it's the Stacey Jones Cup or something, and they've got a Sean Johnson Cup or maybe a Simon Mannering Cup, which is the junior pathways which the Warriors fund for through the
Oh,
schools and all
okay.
the rest of it.
Like a
So
scholarship. Yeah.
there's some really good programs, and they've done a lot to try to close that gap. But it feels like Auckland Rugby League have still got that chip on the shoulder, and they're like, nah,
Yeah.
we're going to send our players to Manly, and we're talking to 3 other NRL clubs to send our best players there. And yeah, I just feel like as a Warriors guy, I'd love to see, like I said, if we could get 17 full New Zealanders who came through
Yeah.
the system, because it's not like there's not enough talent here. There's like 100 New Zealanders in the NRL.
Well, yeah, and you
But
think
that's not going to
like
happen if they're not
yeah,
aligned, and it just annoys me that they've made this call that they're going to align with Manly. I know Cameron's probably doing backflips from this editing suite, but it's a fucking hell.
well, yeah, and you think of guys like Kieran Foran, you know, being in that Manly mold for a long time. So I wonder if he's kind of had a hand in there, or kind of had some old school guys showing him the way to get into Manly. So yeah, interesting call. I think let's keep an eye on that because yeah, I'd love to see that flipped script and have the Warriors as being one of those feeder clubs for the Auckland Rugby League. Yeah, especially like you're saying, with the timing, you know, real good opportunity catchment to get some more players interested in playing rugby league, but playing it for our team. Nice,
Yep.
awesome, bro.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers, bro. Thanks. Good rep. All the best for next Wednesday, mate. We'll catch you back here on Thursday.
We'll see.
Hopefully you'll come back next Thursday, or you might be MIA as usual.
Yeah. If I don't reply to any messages on the chat, then you'll know that I'm still upset. No, I'll try.
If you guys pick up the win, we'll come and record live from town wherever you are. Come and find you.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, also.
Cheers, brother.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you're enjoying it, drop us a comment and check us out on the page. Check out all our other channels. You can find us on www.weswesnet.com. All right. Laters.
All right. Cheers, bro. Cheers, guys.